And now on the Business RadioX network, another exciting episode with Jamie Overturf in Connecting Tucson with Jamie.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Connecting Tucson with Jamie Overturf, broadcasting from Tucson Business RadioX, situated in the Stewart Title corporate offices off of Broadway. Connecting Tucson focuses on connecting our community and local businesses right here in Tucson, Arizona and Southern Arizona. Today we have a very special guest in our studio, Ellen Goldsmith. Welcome, Ellen.
Ellen Golden.
Olden Golden. Oh my goodness. I've already made a mistake. We're going to go right there. But now I know why we have the Goldsmith in there, right?
There's a reason. Yeah.
There's a reason. You can talk about that. But anyways, Ellen is with us today. Ellen's traveled extensively in the United States to Mexico, Great Britain, Ireland, France, Germany, Africa, Tahiti. Gosh, I'm getting jealous just by listing all of these super fabulous places off that you've traveled. We'll get into that a little later. But what brings Ellen to us today is the fact that she is the owner of Goldsmith Real Estate here in Tucson, Arizona. Maybe you've seen some of her advertising out there on some of the benches or some signs. I know I have, but it could be just that I look for those types of things in my line of business. Anyways, Ellen, thank you so much for joining me on the show, and I can't wait to get to know a little bit more about you and Goldsmith Real Estate. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, Jamie. I really appreciate it.
And I apologize on the Ellen Goldsmith. It's actually Ellen Golden.
People do that all the time. My business partner's name is Claude Smith. My name is Ellen Golden.
Hence.
Oh, how creative. We put that together and got Goldsmith out of it. So.
But that's a creative way to do it, Goldsmith. So now there's that. So as I mentioned in the introduction, Ellen, you actually traveled quite extensively. Is that something you've always wanted to do? Were you in the military? Why did we travel so much?
Well, when I moved to Tucson, I changed careers and went into the travel industry. Okay. It would be in the mid-'80s. And that afforded me the opportunity to do a lot of traveling around. Some of it was escorting groups and so forth, but some of it was just on my own. My first overseas trip was with my mother, and we went to Ireland just on a vacation because we have family in Ireland. And so, yeah, we flew into London and drove all over and put the car on a ferry over to Ireland and drove all over there. And my mom's a really horrible navigator. You need to have all those roundabouts.
And you didn't have that Google search when you were back then, right?
No, not at all. And so, Mom has the map and I'm driving on the wrong side of the road. Sorry. So Mom, at this roundabout, where do we turn? And she'd be like, we'd finally just have to pull over and I'd have to look at the map and figure out where we were going. But it was a really great trip. And I think that's kind of what got me hooked on traveling. And it encouraged me to get into the travel industry.
Well, I have to admit, I've been to Ireland once, and it is gorgeous over there.
It is.
Of course, I went in the land of when we had the smartphones, and, driving on the wrong side of the road is a little bit intimidating, especially if you've never done it. For me, it's definitely the wrong side of the road. They say we drive on the wrong side of the road, but still at the same point. And I'm getting the look from Mark over there, who is from, Australia.
From down under.
Down under.
Sorry about that, Mark. Yeah.
But that is something that's there. So where is the favorite place that you've traveled to?
Oh, Ireland is certainly very close to the top. At Tahiti, I actually did 2 trips to Tahiti because I loved it so much. I went there with a girlfriend. We went to what they call in the travel industry a familiarization trip or a fam trip. Oh. And so we went down there and said, we should bring a group of people here. So then we did that as well. So,
Tahiti.
Yeah, Tahiti. We actually stayed on Moorea. So you flew into Tahiti, into Papeete, and then you usually take a boat or a ferry over to this kind of sister island, and it's really beautiful, very lovely.
I've always wanted to go that and Belize and some of those exotic type places, tropical. I think. Although I will have to admit, I did love the breweries and the Jameson plant in Ireland. I might have went there more than once. I'm not 100% sure.
All right. So on Moorea, they also have the a distillery where they have all the fruit juices and things, and you can go and buy freshly squoze, various fruit juices. But you can buy them with or without the alcohol.
Now I got to go to Tahiti. What can I say? I'm going to have to go at some point. So, not only have you traveled extensively, you've also taught travel and tourism classes at Pima Community College, right?
Yes.
So what exactly, how do you teach travel and tourism? I guess that's my question.
There was a whole program. There actually was a whole textbook.
Really?
To go through. There was a lot to it as far as if you're interested in getting into the industry. not just the the computer system and logistics and how to search for airline tickets and write an airline ticket and make changes on an airline ticket.
Can my husband attend this class?
Well, it's pretty much defunct now. So now that there's the internet, the travel industry shrank considerably, and that's when I went into real estate, actually. So,
got it. Well, I can tell you that my husband has still yet to purchase a plane ticket. He doesn't get he hasn't purchased one himself. I've always purchased them for them. I do all of the travel planning, but I seriously think that there still needs to be some type of class on teaching you how to book a vacation correctly from, doing the hotels, from any sightseeing trips, and, actually doing the airline tickets, how to get everything going from connecting or whatnot. Because all the trips that you see on, I'm going to say Groupon's or something, they go from the major airports, from LAX.
Well, we had to learn all those. We had to learn all the airlines have what they call a hub and spoke system. So you needed to know what airline, like American has Dallas and Chicago, and, United has, Denver and New York. And so you had to learn so that if you were trying to find a route for somebody, you could say, let me try this way, and you could force connections this way and that way. So yeah, I'm the travel agent in our family as well.
Yeah. Some of these days I'm going to have to pass the reins, but he has yet to even book one ticket for himself. I'm not 100% sure. I think he's just relying on me saying, "No, you've got this, baby," and then he goes to have his drink of whiskey. That's how that works. All right. So, not only did you teach, but you also are an accomplished author. Was this also travel books, or what kind of books did you
These were more hobby books. These were
hobbies.
I was genealogical research. So I got hooked on genealogy. I don't know if your audience is old enough to remember the Roots miniseries in the 1970s, with Kunta Kinte coming over from Africa. And it really got me hooked on that. And fortunately, both my grandmothers were still alive then. So, and the best thing you can do when you're starting off is try and talk to all your relatives and just write down all their memories, all their stories. And I remember talking around the dinner table with my grandmother, and she'd start saying something, and my parents or my mother or somebody would say, "I never knew that," because unless you start asking them, they usually aren't real forthcoming with a lot of that information.
Especially with what they went through during that time, depressions and transferring over. That's just not something that no one wants to talk about. But
Ireland was very poverty stricken for quite a long time, and it was not. It was not pretty. So that was really interesting. And this is, of course, before the internet and stuff. And Mom and I would take several trips to Salt Lake City, and we went to where the Mormon church is, because they hold a lot of genealogical records. And we would go there and look through microfilm and stuff.
Really?
Now, of course, on the internet, so you can do all this stuff on Ancestry.com.
Yeah, I was going to say that's really what it was, Ancestry.com. But there's something else too. What is the other one? There's several different ones.
I
think the Ancestry ones that has the leaf.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been doing that, and then you have where you send in your sample of your actual DNA.
We did DNA. Yeah, we did that for my mom.
That's completely different though, right?
You can do it in conjunction with Ancestry, and so like the first book that I did was actually for my mother.
Okay.
I think on her 80th birthday, and so I had put together this whole book, and it has census records, and you can find things like, if you found out what ship they came over, because they have ship manifests.
Yes.
Ancestry also has photos, a lot of those old ships that aren't even in existence anymore. And so you can put together this whole pictorial book and a story, and it's really interesting. So I did one for my mom on her 80th. I did one for Claude's mother on her 90th.
Wow.
So I've done several of those for people.
So I just remember, because my ancestry comes from Ireland and Germany. So I know a lot about Ireland. I know a lot about Germany and Sweden. Sorry, Ireland, German, and Swedish. I'm a mutt. I'm an American mutt. That's what I call myself.
Pretty much everybody is here. They may not know it, but they are. Yeah,
we're all American mutts. Yeah. We're coming here from something. But I just remember my great grandmother saying something about coming over on that boat from Ireland, and that just kind of, I was probably like 5 or 6. So you're not really interested. Like, oh, okay, Grandma, I wanted to go do this. Let's go over here. You're more selfish when you're that age. When you get a little bit older, you want to learn some of that stuff, so you know more about you. So that's super interesting. I never knew that. I never knew you were an author. And I've known you for a while now. Wow.
I know.
The things I learned. So, okay, so let me get this straight. So first off, you're a seasoned traveler, you were a travel agent, and you were a teacher, and then you were an author, and now you just decide to open up your own business.
Wasn't quite that smooth.
It seems like a pretty smooth transition. So A, do you sleep? And B, how did that transition happen?
Well, so in around the end of the last millennium, when the internet was really booming and the travel industry was totally changing, and so most of the airlines were switching to, instead of paying travel agents to run all these tickets, people could just make their own reservations online. So the travel agencies in town shrank considerably. There are still travel agencies in town. They're really great. I mean, they probably do more things like cruises and vacation
Group travels.
packages and things like that. Not even groups, but you can do individuals. But if it's a package, and a cruise is a good example. They still do that sort of stuff. But I just felt like, it was time to do something else. And so in the year 2000, I got my real estate license, started off in residential real estate. I did that just for a couple of years and then kind of moved over into commercial real estate management, leasing. So I did that for quite a number of years. And then just about 5 years ago, was talking with Claude and we'd had some other investments together and decided, we should open our own, real estate brokerage firm. So we had a lot of discussion about that and trying to decide if we wanted to do it and what we were going to do. And we thought, well, let's just try everything. We'll do residential and commercial real estate sales. We'll do leasing and property management for everything. And we'll try that for the first year and we'll see what sticks. We'll see what really works out good. And what we found out is that doing the mix of everything is a really good format for us. Oh. So, for instance, we had a client who she owns a business in an office complex, and they're called office condos because you own each office. So you have your own real estate. And she said, "Oh, the office next to us is coming up for sale. Can you help me buy that? We might want to expand at some point." Sure. So we got her to buy that office, and then she said, "Well, we're really not ready to expand right now. Could you find a tenant for us?" Sure. So we found a tenant, leased space for them. That tenant who was relocating here from another state, we also helped them buy a house.
Wow.
And then she also said, "Well, I don't really want to manage my own tenant right next door. It seems like that would be awkward. So could you manage that property for us as well?" And I said, "Absolutely." And she said, "That was so great. There are not too many companies in Tucson where you can do all of those functions with one person or one company." So it's been a good mix for us.
That's good. Well, I'm just not sure how you do it all or you manage to do it all, but I know I need to step my game up at some point and gotta match you. That's how it's going to go. So, okay, real estate. You obviously did not grow up thinking real estate. So was that something after the travel, how did that pop into your head, real estate versus going from travel to real estate really isn't like, I guess not seamless.
Not a lot of similarities.
There's not similarities in there. So I'm like, what made you say, okay, real estate, that's what I want to do? And how did you get started?
There's some similarities in that it is a sales position. When you're in the travel industry, that's sales too. And I did a lot of speaking with groups and corporations. We did a lot of corporate incentive travel. So it is a sales position. Real estate also is a sales position. There's some people that get into it because they're like, "Ooh, I just really like, looking at houses and showing houses." But let's face it is a sales position. You are selling something. You're helping them buy that. You're negotiating. There's other negotiations even once the property is in escrow. So there's a lot to that. And I don't really know what the connection was. I know I had taken some time off, just to kind of rethink what I wanted to do. And I just thought, I'm going to just try this for a while and see how it works. And it just worked out really well. So I've been doing it for like 20 years now.
You've been doing it for a while. Yeah. I just happen to know that from travel to real estate, there's really not a nice little bridge.
It's not a common leap.
It's not a common leap. And real estate is not easy, especially in the past 20 years, all of the ups and the downs that you've had to incur to stay in business.
Yes.
So it's a rough industry.
Right. It is. It can be a real roller coaster. The one nice thing is that Tucson doesn't have quite the peaks and valleys that, say, Phoenix does. Mm-hmm. So it has really big peaks and people are making a lot of money. But when it, in the recession, whoosh, it really had more of a peak. So we certainly had huge peaks and valleys, but it's not as bad as a larger metropolitan area.
Okay.
But also because, doing property management, the company that I worked for just before opening my own company, we did a lot of property management and and it was strictly commercial. So it was just, mostly just retail and industrial centers. Mm-hmm. During the entire recession, my division, which was my department, was the property management department. We never took a dip in income at all. So if you looked at a graph, even though it was during the whole recession, and even though in property management, a lot of times your income is based on the rents that you collect, and people were going out of business, or larger chains were coming in and negotiating lower rents because of the recession. Even though that income went down, we were taking on more and more properties, and our income level went up the entire time.
Oh, that's
throughout the
phenomenal.
whole recession. So it's nice to have a mix, so that you have something else.
You have something that can go
on.
there. So let's just jump into it. Tell us about Goldsmith Real Estate. What is there?
Well, besides it being your one-stop shop for, sales, leasing, and property management for residential and commercial properties, it's I'll back up and say that our real formula, or our I can't think of what the word is. I'm trying to think of our philosophy, I guess, is that if you put helping people first, the money will follow. So we always feel like, we want to help people. So say in a residential sale or for the purchase or sale transaction, real estate's a big ticket item for most people, and it can be really stressful. So our goal is to try and really work with people. We're there every step of the way. Let's try and make it as smooth and as drama-free as possible. And which sometimes during negotiations and stuff, people can get emotional on both sides. So I've had someone say, oh, well, we want to make, this kind of really low offer on this house. Let's just see if they buy it. And I'll say, the problem with that is, because I've seen it happen, is, you'll make a really low offer and you may offend them. And so even though then they may not even counteroffer you, and you may go back with a higher offer, and now you've already kind of turned them off, and they're just not even going to respond to you. So it's an emotional transaction. And, you need to really help people through all that to make it, there is a way to make it a win-win, I feel, for everybody.
So and here, let's just talk about that, because I've sold a few houses, well, I've not sold them personally, but I've used them. And I've had a lot of people come in and give that low ball offer because they're like, oh, they just want to sell. I'm like, no, we don't need to sell. Like, I don't need to. I don't think I've ever felt that, I can't counter offer. But let me ask you, is there a sweet spot? Like, let's say a house, depending on a house, whatever, we're talking a personal property, like a house is for sale for $400,000. And you see these estimates all the time on like Zillow and Redfin and whatever those other ones are. They're like, oh, it's 380. So if like those estimates are pretty close, they're at 400,000 and you counter at 380, is that too off? Because that's almost $20,000 difference.
Percentage wise, that's not that much though.
Okay. Oh yeah, I guess not.
If you're talking about, a much lower price property,
like 320,
if it's $200,000 house and you're doing 20,000 less, well, that's like 10% less.
Yeah.
A $400,000 house, not so much.
Okay.
And every home is different, and every market is different. I'm not real big on the Zestimates. I don't really feel that they're that accurate.
I don't think they're that accurate either. I'm sitting there like, but how do they come up with that?
Well, they're just crunching numbers that are available, like from the assessor's office and so forth. And when you look at that, you're not really looking at, okay, this house sold for $30,000 more than this house. They'll just go, okay, we'll just take an average. Well, maybe one house had like a really phenomenal view, and the other one did
nice
not.
Upgrades,
or really a lot of nice upgrades, and the other one hadn't been upgraded since 94. So yeah, they don't take that into consideration. So you can't just kind of take an average. When I go through and I'm doing comps or comparables for a neighborhood, I'm going to look at all of those things. I'll make notes on them, and I don't just let believe me, there are tons of computer formats and logarithms that you can pull up all these figures. I don't usually do that. I want to go through and I want to look at what's sold in that neighborhood the last 6 months and really find out what exactly has sold in there, because that's what an appraiser is going to look at, probably the last 6 months. And find out, this one, had granite countertops, had the stainless steel appliances, it had all the new hip trendy things, a walk-in shower, really nice pebble deck pool and a mountain view. Great. The one right across the street is not going to have that same view. And if they haven't done any of those upgrades, like since it was built, even though it may be in excellent condition and wonderful, you're not even looking at apples to apples.
No. See, that's great. See, I always wondered how they came up with that, because I'm sitting there going, that doesn't seem right, Like, it can be a good jumping point to see where things are.
True.
But when,
True. To me, you're better off calling a realtor.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I was like, how do they come up with that? How are they doing that estimate? I don't know.
They just look at numbers, but they don't necessarily account for very variables.
We talked about this. You've been in Tucson for 30 plus years, but you've been doing real estate for over 20 plus years, not all on your own, not in your own brokerage. And you've done both residential, or what I call personal, and then commercial real estate. So, what are some of those key differences you've seen between the two, and do you prefer one over the other?
I really like that doing a mix of everything.
Okay.
I will say that with commercial real estate, you probably don't have quite the emotional factor.
Yeah.
It's not their home that they've lived in. And so
all the memories.
People are a little more, there's a little bit more detachment.
Transactional.
Right. It's more of a business transaction. But when we manage a variety of businesses, I mean, large shopping centers, office complexes. We even manage a fraternity house at U of A. That one's a real adventure.
I can bet.
That one keeps us busy.
Get some weird phone calls?
Very busy, yes. Yeah, I love when the kids call up and they say, well, something's wrong with my door. And you go there and they busted it in because they, lost the key or they couldn't remember the lock. I don't know how that happened. Or they'll say...
it was like that when I got here. I promise you.
Someone broke the window. Well, the glass is on the outside. I think you broke it.
I know, right?
So anyway, that's always... We just call it billable hours and move along.
Oh, my goodness.
So we do quite a variety.
I share a couple of them properties, and I can tell you they are rather interesting.
They are.
They keep you on your toes.
It's an adventure.
I know.
That's all it is.
So we talked about some of the products and services you offer. What are all of the products and services that Goldsmith Real Estate offers?
Gosh. Okay. Well, that would be a long list. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the property management because I'm thinking most of your audience probably understands. Okay, sales, buy and sell.
Yeah, buy and sell. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of variables, especially with 1031 exchanges and things like that. But I won't get into that. Leasing. Which is more related to property management. Not all the properties that we do leasing for, we manage. I don't know if that makes sense. So someone may have, I have a building I need you to find a tenant for, but then we're done with it.
You don't do the property management,
don't do the management
once you lease it out.
Right. But all of the residential, we do more commercial than residential. But the residential property management, there's actually a real shortage of property residential homes, I will say, like single family homes right now. What we had found with our inventory is that during the recession, people had a house that maybe they were at a point where they wanted to sell it. For instance, we had a really nice home in Sam Hughes. They bought it for their kids while they were going to college. They all finished up college right when the recession hit. So then the bottom dropped out of their price. So they didn't want to sell it, and they obviously don't want to turn it back over to the bank or take a hit on their credit. So they're like, well, I guess it's going to be a rental property for a while. So they may turn something into a rental property for a while because it's income. Hopefully they're at least breaking even with their mortgage. A lot of people were refinancing. It's a good write-off, a tax write-off. But now that the markets are up, a lot of people are going, okay, when this lease is up, let's sell. Mm-hmm. And so we've had several properties do that. And then we're scrambling, trying to find those tenants. We've been trying to get them to either buy a home of their own or get into another rental property. And that's been a challenge. So there's kind of a shortage of homes for lease right now. On the other hand, with commercial property management, that's almost sort of an ongoing thing. We have a lot of properties that have some vacancies and a lot of different zoning, so different needs and different businesses that can go in there. So it's kind of nice because it's a real mix. So I mean, if you put this all together, every day is different because you're not doing the same thing every day. But as far as commercial property management also with, it's a lot more complex. So usually with a shopping center, you're going to have a budget. You're going to have a budget for 2019 and usually a share of those charges are passed on to the tenants. They're pro rata shares. So if they're leasing a space, it's 5% of the shopping center. They're going to be responsible for 5% of the operating expenses for that shopping center. And you might hear them referred to as triple net charges or CAM charges, something like that. So it's going to include property taxes, insurance, landscaping, parking lot lighting, parking lot maintenance, painting, things like that. So you have a budget for all of those things. And then after the first of the year, we look at what was our actual expenses as compared to what the budget was. So let's say we build the tenants based on budget. Actual expense might be higher than that, might be lower than that. So we're either going to debit or credit those tenants. We've already figured out, hopefully, by then what our 2020 budget is going to be. And we'll say, okay, now here's your new monthly CAM rate for next year. You have this credit or a charge, and move along. And there's a lot of owners out there who think, well, we own this property and it's been in the family, we can do this, but they may not really have that strong of a feel for budgeting and stuff. And if you're not recouping those expenses, generally if you've got any vacancies, you're not recouping all of the cost anyway, because the tenants are just paying their share based on their square footage.
And then you have the open square footage that you have to absorb.
Exactly. That's a landlord expense. So it's complex. So we can do all that, that sort of thing.
Love it. So in a nutshell, you're more than just a property manager, and then you're also more than just a leasing or a sales. You can do it all. Just give you a call.
We can juggle it all for you. Yep.
Juggle it all, give you a call.
And if people are sick of, tenants calling and at 3 a.m. saying, there's a roof leak, or there's a water leak, or there's,
That's where a property manager comes in.
We had a shopping center that had an arson fire on Sunday over Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, no.
We get the call. So we go over there, we handle it, we contact their insurance company, as you're very familiar with.
I do, yeah.
Fortunately, it wasn't one of yours.
I know.
But that's why you hire somebody, and especially for maybe even just residential owners that maybe aren't all that familiar with the Arizona Landlord-Tenant Act. You need to think about that.
There's a lot of people out there that think that they can just purchase 3 or 4 homes and then they can be the landlord for them all. But that's a lot of work and a lot of upkeep.
It is.
And making sure you're up with all the laws. What if, a tenant, is not paying? How can you evict them correctly, legally?
Exactly.
Correct. There's a lot of different questions that are out there. So yes, don't try to do it yourself. If you have a question, call an expert, and I suggest calling Goldsmith Real Estate for some advice. Obviously you're doing something right because your business is growing and expanding. I see your picture out there and your signs and logos out on not only commercial, park benches, and there's like everything. Bus benches, TVS. I've seen them all. So, and I think I have to account this to the fact that not only are you and Claude phenomenal, but you hire great staff. The people, I've most recently worked with Tori, and she's wonderful as well. So, that actually leads me to my next question. Like, how do you find your agents and the people that work for you? Like, you obviously offer them some other stuff other companies don't. How do you find them, and how do you keep them, and how do you retain them?
Troy's been a fabulous property manager. I mean, I wouldn't be able to even do this anymore without her, because we have grown kind of beyond our own expectations and plans that we had for the company. A little over 2 years ago, we even bought our own office. We thought we would rent for 5 years and then buy something on that. So that's been way ahead of schedule, and hiring people. So we hired a full-time property manager about 1.5 years ago. And then just this year, we also hired a full-time maintenance person, and we have a maintenance van with our, signage all over it. So, the format has worked. And I think there's 2 things. One, besides the philosophy of, put helping people first, and everything will be fine.
Right.
It's also that we take a much more personal, hands-on, face-to-face way of doing things. So for instance, when my agents, I said, if you're representing either a buyer or a seller, so you have the listing out of MLS and it'll say this, that, and the other thing, don't take any of that information as gospel, because people can make mistakes. You need to double check everything in here. You need to go on county records, verify that, is it in a flood zone? Is it actually hooked up to the sewer? Now, and there was a famous lawsuit this was many decades ago, but there was an agent who listed a home in the foothills and said it was on sewer, and it sold. And then the people who bought it some years later called out a plumber to say, there's a problem with this, and he says, it's no big deal. You just need your septic tank pump. And they're like, we don't have a septic tank. And this was a pricey home up in the foothills. And a lot of those are acre properties that have septic tanks.
Yes.
And they're like, no, you're on a septic tank. And they sued the agent, and she had to pay to have the sewer run to that house. So I said, you don't want to do this.
You don't.
And I don't know that your E&O insurance is going to cover that, because that was more negligence. So yeah. So I said, really go into detail, look at it yourself. Don't just take someone else's word for it. Same thing when we're interviewing tenants. I mean, other than a new complex that we just took on that has a really high delinquency rate, which we just took on a couple of weeks ago, all the other properties that the residential properties, we had no delinquencies. And a lot of that is because when we're interviewing, we actually physically interview people. We actually have them fill out an application. We do a background check. We ask them to come in and sit down, or at the very least, if they're moving here from out of state, we have a phone conversation with them. But there's a much more of a relationship there. So you're developing a relationship with obviously the landlord, but also the tenant. And we just really want to make sure that, you know, they understand all of the complexities of the lease. And if they have any questions, what don't you understand? I know the house that we leased in that same Sam Hughes neighborhood, we had some tenants in there, but then we got some grad students that wanted to lease. And the owners were like, I don't know. We said, well, it's grad students. They're different than undergrads. So we'll interview them and make sure, because they're like, I don't want any problems with that. No, that's okay. So they came in and they were 3, I think, math grad students, and I think at least 2 of them, their focus was more in astronomy and stuff. And anyway, they seemed very adult and responsible. And so we did say, well, here's the deal, though. If you guys get 1 red tag, you're out of here. And they all said, what's a red tag? And we said, you guys will be just fine. And a red tag, if you don't know it, is when you get tagged from the city. Usually it's for it might be for underage drinking or loud partying or something like that. And they put literally a huge red tag on your front window. So the fact that they didn't even know what a red tag was
I didn't even know what a red tag was. So I'm like, seriously, what's a red tag?
Yes.
Like, I got a red mic in front of me, but is that the same thing? Is that the same thing as a red tag?
So if you don't know what a red tag, to me, that's good. That speaks well of you.
Okay, well, I had no idea.
But there's not too many other management companies that even do that. A lot of them, everything is very automated now. You know, they don't even show the house to the person. You call in with a credit card number. They give you a code for the key safe. They have the lockbox, and they go when they walk in.
It's so impersonal.
They pay, online, and they do all this, and they never meet them. So we have much more personal relationships, and I feel that that's what really helps us keep our delinquency rate down.
Well, I can tell you, no wonder you're doing great. You have that personal touch. Your agents that you train and hire are also doing great. And, you know, it's one of those where you're training them in your ways, being the personal touch, making sure that you do the interviews. You want to develop a relationship, because here's the thing. If you don't develop a relationship with either tenant or the landlord, and you're sitting there trying to collect money, they're going to be, more likely to dodge you if they don't know you. But if they know you, like, oh, okay, you know what? I know her. I'm going to be a week late. Maybe if I just let her know I'm going to be a week late. And
because I know she'll be calling.
Yes, she's going to be calling. I'm just going to give her a call and say, hey, this is what happened.
Right,
right. You're more likely to work with somebody as long as they communicate. Same with me.
Absolutely.
I'm more likely to work with somebody to say, hey, something happened with my bank account. Something's not going to happen until next week. I need 7 days. All right, that's fine. We can work with you. Just talk to us. We're not all mean. We're not just here to collect that almighty dollar, but we have feelings too. We've probably been through it all. So.
And everybody's had some emergency come up in their life. Everybody gets that. But communication is what really gets you through all that.
I know. Don't put us on radio silence. Just talk to us.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
Well, so interesting. And I have to say, your approach to property management and your agents is just so refreshing. The fact that you take that personal time, you take the time to, talk to them, interview, set up, and do all of that. If you're just tuning in, you are listening to Connecting Tucson with Jamie Overturf and Farmers Insurance, where we focus on connecting our community and local businesses right here in Tucson and Southern Arizona. As your local insurance professional for both personal and commercial lines insurance needs, and a small business owner myself, I know how important it is to make new and lasting connections in our own community. You never know how a new connection will create a spark or pull you in a direction you weren't even thinking of, like real estate. If you're a small business owner or involved in a community project and you'd like to be featured on this podcast, please feel free to give me a call. All of my information is on TucsonBusinessRadioX.com, and I would love to hear from you and your story. Today we're talking to Ellen Golden, the owner of Goldsmith Real Estate, a unique real estate company here in Tucson, Arizona, which focuses not only on property management, but leasing and sales for both commercial and residential real estate. If you're a small business owning a few buildings, or an individual looking for some help and guidance around your property rentals, or just have a few questions or needed a little help to get you to the next level, check them out. All of their social media links and website information will be on Tucson Business Radio X underneath Connecting Tucson with Jamie. So first off, what do you like best about what you do, Ellen, now that we're getting back? What's the favorite thing about doing what you do?
I think, as we discussed before, not doing the same thing every day. It's not, if you you've got this real variety of business going on, all the different avenues that we handle. You're doing different stuff every day, but also the people. I think in real estate, you really have to be a people person and like talking to people, be comfortable talking to people. And I'm going to pause right here though and say, you, Ms. JB.
Me? What I do?
You've been a great help. Now, you've helped several of my tenants, now the commercial tenants especially. They have to get insurance coverage before we'll give them the keys to the premises. And also some of the property owners that we have that own commercial properties, we've been able to rebid out their annual insurance premiums, and you've given them good deals. So you've been a really great asset.
Thank you.
So thank you for doing both residential and commercial insurance coverage as well.
Not all of us do. So yes.
No, and it's great to be able to talk with somebody who knows what they're talking about. When you say, okay, I need like, $1 million per and a $2 million aggregate and this, that, and the other thing, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Same thing with agents. Sometimes you'll get residential real estate agents who are trying to do commercial
and don't really know what they're doing.
And aren't, maybe they may be new to it, but yeah, you'll say, oh, okay, you have a possible tenant for here. Well, great. Why don't you pop me over an LOI, and we'll run it by the owner. We'll see.
And they're like, what's an LOI?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, you need to go talk to somebody in your company.
That's when I get the like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
Yeah. So it really is. It's great, Jamie, to work with somebody who really knows your stuff, and you've been great.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. So I have to say, I focus a lot on people too. And I have the same type of motto. If you put helping somebody first over your business, you're going to get a lot of referrals and a lot of repeat business. And I know you have that same motto. For me, I always tell my staff, you know what? Put yourself in their shoes. You want somebody that's going to help you. So try to help them out. If we can't help them, be honest with them. Just say, we can't help you, but here we might have a few other places that can. Try these, and then in 6 months to a year, we'll try to come back and get you back. But they'll remember the fact that A, we educated them, B, we tried to help them, and then when we call them back, it's not so hard of a lead. They're like, oh yeah, you did help me, versus, oh, we can't help you, sorry, and hang up the phone. That, in my opinion, is, okay, I've just closed that door or burned that bridge. I'm not able to go back. You never want to close a door or burn a bridge. You always want to try to leave things open. Now, there are certain situations where you're like, all right, it's time to burn that bridge.
That's true. There's times when we've all fired our clients.
Yeah. We were like, okay, and you are now fired. Like,
but also, it's great to be able to be honest with people, much as trying to think of an example, like, we'd really love to sell that house for them, but after talking with them and what their issue is, we've actually told people, I don't think it's a good idea for you to sell. I think maybe you ought to hang on to it. I think you ought to. And we had it was an older couple, and they wanted to sell the house and buy new construction. And we were just saying, I don't think, to be honest, I would have gotten a double deal. I would have sold their house, but helped them buy the new one. We're talking, $500,000 homes. And, I was just saying, I think you guys ought to sit down and talk to it amongst yourself, because I don't know that the pros are outweighing the cons here. I know it's kind of tempting thing. You'll get a brand new home on, a smaller piece of property, but I think you might be better off just hiring people to take care of, it was mostly just they had like an acre. And so it was like just too much yard. Yeah. I think you might be better off and more comfortable, because now you have that home, like just the way you like it. And it's not like they had, a 2-story home that they couldn't navigate anymore or something like that. Yeah. It was really just the yard. For what, a few $100 a month, maybe get somebody to take care of the property.
Exactly.
And you'll be fine. And much as I would have loved to have done that just for the money end, you don't want to, you want to treat people right. And I know when it comes time that they do need to sell the house,
they'll come to you.
They'll come back. Yeah.
So that is just so true. I love being able to help people and, helping them with their businesses too. However, there's a flip side to that. I think it's more challenging for us specifically, because as we're always trying to help other people, sometimes we forget to help ourselves and do that work-life family balance. And, it's hard to take off that work hat when I get home and relax. How do you do it?
Alcohol is usually.
I love woman after my own heart.
I have to say, Troy, our full-time property manager, has been a lifesaver. I would not feel comfortable leaving town if I didn't know that she was there to really pick up the slack and take care of things. Yes. So that's been great. And I just think that, again, I think having the relationship with the clients, I don't have to worry about the tenants so much. They get the drill after the while. Like, they know something is wrong, call us right away. We'd rather take care of it, because maybe they were used to somebody really not taking care of stuff, or they would, they might
Get
have
a runaround.
a leaky toilet and they would want to charge them for that. I mean, I think that's just normal wear and tear. There's no reason the tenant should have to pay for just a simple little repair. Now,
Right.
if they've broken something, that they've broken in the house, that might be something else.
Yeah.
How did that countertop get shattered? Something like that.
I don't know. Sledgehammer or something? I just like...
Yeah, it's kind of like, except other than the college kids, that usually doesn't happen too
Yeah.
often. But they know if they feel comfortable. They know that if they call, we're going to take care of it. We even have several portable air conditioner units, because in the middle of summer when it's 110 and everyone's AC is going out, sometimes
Mine went out this year.
you can't get somebody there right then,
can't.
because it's happening to so many people across Tucson. So we'll bring over a portable AC unit. So at least their bedroom is cool.
Exactly.
And especially if they're elderly, if they're small kids, we'll at least do something to get them through that, because
and that's a lot.
we get it. Yeah.
I remember my AC went out this summer. You offered that for me. I was really happy. But I do have a handy husband who was able to jerry rig the AC. But now that a lot of those ACs no longer, the Freon 22 is not going to be easily accessible, we're thinking about actually upgrading our AC unit, but we'll have to figure that out. So, well, you're doing a fantastic job. I think I've said that many times. And we did talk about how the real estate market is not as volatile here in Tucson, but there are still some up and downs. What would you say the market's in right now? And a recession? Is it booming? What are we looking at as far as the real estate right now here in Tucson and Southern Arizona?
I think we're still in a really, really strong market. The low interest rates are really great. They're really helping borrowers, and people are not just borrowers, but people wanting to refinance their homes.
That's been a big thing. I've had a lot of people call me and say, we're refinancing. Literally, I have probably a request for an EOI every other day saying we're refinancing. So that's pretty good.
I actually came out of a closing at a title company just last week. And they're in the lobby were clients that we just sold them a house a year ago, and I was like, "Are you buying another house?" I'm like, "Without me?" No. And they said, "No, we're refinancing." And it was just a year ago, and they said, "We're going to save like $150, $200 a month." I can't remember what it was, just because the interest rate had dropped quite a bit. So,
excellent.
So the low interest rates are really keeping the market going. It's still a seller's market because there isn't as much inventory out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're thinking about it, feel free to give us a call. We'll give you a free valuation of your home, and see if that's something that if the time is right for you.
Excellent. Well, so here's something, and you've mentioned this too. I was just talking to somebody today, and I can't remember who it was, but they're like, there's some 4,000 real estate agents that are actually somewhere in Tucson, Arizona at some point, but only like 400 of them are actually practicing. There's really a lot of real estate agents out there, but not a lot of property management companies. The competition has got to be tough. What do you do to set yourself apart from the competition? What does Goldsmith Real Estate do to set themselves apart from every other real estate and property management company out there?
You're right. You're exactly right. There are not that many property management companies. And the Department of Real Estate is really strict when it comes to property management companies. And I'm sure you're aware that, how many years ago was it? There was a property management company in Tucson that absconded with about $1 million worth of people's, maintenance reserves and security deposits and rents. And
I remember that.
They're like,
that was a huge scandal.
Yes, it was huge. And so, when you're a real estate company that does property management, which you have to notify the Department of Real Estate about, and you have to have trust accounts, and we actually have a bunch of trust accounts. So we'll have like separate trust accounts, like a separate trust account for this shopping center, a separate bank account for this center. Simply because it's easier to do the bookkeeping that way. And so we'll send them, here's your bank statement, so you know how much is in the account. So we send monthly reports. We send them at least on the larger commercial properties, their bank statement. Obviously, if it's the smaller, a one-off house or one or two homes
you
that
have
we're building,
in one
that's
trust account,
generally in one trust account. But we do manage a lot more commercial than we do residential.
Nice.
But yeah, we send out, reports every month. We send out your bank statement every month. We also have a lot of really good contractors that we use a lot. And so we have one a gentleman who does our HVAC work, and if I put a plug in for him?
Absolutely.
Great. Edwards Heating and Cooling. He's been so good, and he does both commercial and residential. And I have one commercial client who owns quite a few properties here in the Tucson area. And if he had units, we need a couple units over here, we need units over here. He's given him such great bids just consistently over the years. He doesn't even bid out anymore. He just says, "Yeah, have Eduardo give me a call. I need a few more units on this for this new tenant that's going to move it in."
Oh, great.
So plumbing, electrical.
It's
electricians, things like that.
Great when you find somebody you can trust and keeps giving you consistent bids. Absolutely.
And they're also, when you do a lot of business with them, in the summertime when you really need to pull strings, says, we got to get you over to this house right now. They have their elderly mom and they have a baby. Put them at the top of the list, and they will. If you tell them.
Because you give them so much.
Because you give them so much business. Sure, they really. As a matter of fact, I bought my own new HVAC unit for my home this year. And one of the things I was going to tell you about the HVAC is how much more energy efficient they are and how you're going to save on your electric bill. We were renting an office before we bought the office that we're in right now. And it was a smaller office, but it was older and had an older AC unit. And so when I was crunching my own budget, okay, we're going to buy this building. It's a bigger office. It's got more square footage. It's got 2 AC units. And I'm running my budget. Then I'm budgeting more for electrical costs and so forth. Our electric bill was so much less than the smaller space with the older AC unit because they're so much more energy efficient. Yeah.
Now that we're getting past the summer, all right, I'll get you. You'll have to give me Eduardo's number.
Yes, absolutely.
But at the same point, I'm thinking, now we're in the cooler areas, so now's probably the time to get it versus the peak of Arizona summers. We all know how those can be.
Which I did too. I had planned on buying my new AC before summer because I knew it wasn't going to do another summer. No. But it actually died early this year in the winter. So
nice,
which was unexpected, but oh well. At least it was over and done with, and that was that. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So, are there any special deals or offers that you have for our listeners?
Yes. Well, besides we'll certainly do a free valuation of your home. That's something that we always do for folks.
Okay.
Right now, we are offering new property management accounts, either commercial or residential. We'll do that with no setup fee.
Oh, nice.
So
and how much is the setup fee usually?
It depends on the property, but it can be, it might be just a couple $100 for a larger commercial property. It could be more. So it just depends on number of tenants, how complex it is, and so forth. So that's something that we're running now, probably through the end of the year at least.
Great. I'll make sure to go ahead and post that on my Facebook and make sure we get that offer out there on everything as well. So
thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. So in all seriousness, you do work hard, but work is not everything. So what do you like to do in your free time?
That's right.
What do you like to do in your free time?
Besides go home
and when you have
put my feet up with a cocktail.
If and when you do have any free time, because you are a busy lady.
I do try, you spend time with family. And I do try and at least have some downtime. I'm on call 24/7 because especially when you're doing property management, you just have to be.
I know how that is. But, accidents don't just happen Monday through Friday from 8:30 till 5:30. I wish, but they don't.
We all wish, yeah. But yeah, I think keeping in touch, with family and keeping, my mother's going to be 90 next month.
Wow.
And she's in assisted living, but I try and go see her every Sunday and have some lunch with her, and maybe bring her some flowers or something. And she's just really into her bingo and everything. But I just think it's really important to spend time with her because she's not going to be around forever.
That's
but also with your significant others too, your immediate family. You've got to make time to do that, whether it's maybe just a date night or just and just put it on the calendar as if it was an appointment. This night we're not going to do anything. We're just going to stay home and watch a movie or something.
Because if you don't put it, honey.
Yeah, but you kind of have to do that because you know what your schedule looks like. It's my own schedule. It's like every evening, some early morning meetings, all this stuff.
I hear you.
So you've got to just pencil in some personal time. So you just kind of have to do it.
Well, we're getting to the close of the show, and I just want to make sure that we touched base on everything that you wanted us to. Is there something that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that our listeners know about, or did we cover it all today, Ellen?
I think you've done it all, Jamie.
I've done it all. All right. Well, there you have it. As she mentioned, there are a couple offers. They will do a free valuation of your home. And for new property management out there, either commercial or residential, give them a call. No setup fee. They're going through that for the end of the year. Just mention this podcast. We'll be happy to do that for you. So, well, that is all that we have time for Connecting Tucson with Jamie here at the Stewart Title corporate offices. If you'd like the show, please let us know. You can get to know a little bit more about Ellen and Goldsmith Real Estate by going to TucsonBusinessRadioX.com and clicking on Connecting Tucson with Jamie. As always, don't be afraid to step out of that comfort zone and make a new connection. You never know where it might lead. Until next time, keep on making some unique connections, Tucson. Have a great day.